morning, everybody. Just one more minute to get set up. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Sunday morning mindful practice. It is Sunday, May 8th. Many people might be celebrating Mother's Day in all its shapes and forms. Whether that for you is a celebration with your own mother, as a mother, or perhaps even in your own heart space with grief around your mother. Today, be gentle with yourself. I know for those grieving, it can be quite overwhelming, overwhelming of a day with all of the feelings that can come up so easily. So good morning. I'm recording, and if you're here live, thank you for being here. Thank you. And if you're watching this later, thank you. We are now day 8 of our 31 days of exploring meditation, in particular using meditation as a means to, because we can use it for lots of reasons, but in this case, we're using it to start to have a different relationship with the thoughts and feelings and our belief structures. And these things in particular, they shape our mindset of how we perceive the world, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive the world, how we perceive others. And when we can start to see it, the thought, the feeling, the belief, we can start to make changes potentially to it, insert, challenge, install a more positive or uplifting. To some extent, we can use our thoughts and our brains to hinder us, to limit us, to cause us pain, suffering, or we can empower ourselves through mastering the mind to use the thoughts, the feelings, the belief, and the power really of the mind to create the life that we want, if you will, to at least support ourselves, to be a more positive influence in the world, not only for others, which is a beautiful thing, to be of service to others, but for ourselves. There's a lot of things around, you have to love yourself before you can love somebody else and all of that, which I don't necessarily believe to be true. But what I do believe is that our inner world and our outer world are reflections of each other. Not always just the inner is a reflection of the outer, but vice versa. And so as much as we can start to have a different relationship with ourselves, we can start to shift perhaps that which we notice, that which we pay attention to, and of course that which we take in. How much of the world around us do we allow it to shape who we are, or do we decide how we want to shape our own experiences? So as we're moving through these 31 days of meditation, we are on Sundays talking about different things that can support our practice. And in particular, as I just discussed, how it might be helpful to notice things, to become aware of it. This is mindful practice. So how do we cultivate this idea of mindfulness in order to support ourselves, to start to change these things? And so today, before practice, I just wanted to spend a few moments talking about what we call the hindrances. And there's different ways of wording this. So certainly if you Google it, you might find different wording of this. I'm going to try and simplify it as much as possible. We're going to talk about kind of what the challenge or the hindrance is, and then what the solution might be. What's the antidote? Because, it's one thing to notice it, but then, what do I do about it then? And so there's 5 of them, and what we can call them hindrance, right? That obstacles. It can be inner resistance. We can talk about it in many different ways. They're the things that come up, our inner state of being, right? Which can fluctuate, states can fluctuate, that in some way stop us from, or make it harder, I guess, right, resistance to sitting and being at one with ourselves. We talked last week on Sunday about this idea of natural presence, of being in loving awareness and then becoming loving awareness, like removing the boundary of that, right? Of us being in loving awareness or having this moment of loving awareness, and then removing the boundaries and simply being loving awareness. And so what stops us from that, right? Or, in those moments when we might start to feel into it, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're taken out of it because of a thought or a feeling. And so the first one, there's no order to these, they just happen to be the way I'm going to talk about them, is this idea of restlessness, which can also show up as boredom, 2 sides of that continuum. And the restlessness can really be about, the mind just being super, super busy. The mind just being really kind of off and running. And some days it's just like this, as I've mentioned probably in the past, the many, many, many years of meditating, there's still days where the mind just does not want to come to a rest, right? That the mind is just shifting into to-do lists, and you should be doing this, don't forget about this, and whatever else, or going through ruminating on something we might be dealing with, right? So there's this restlessness of the mind that happens, that sometimes comes out in our body as well. And so sometimes we'll just feel ourselves, doing the moving slightly and just not being able to feel comfortable in our own body. This can certainly show up as the next one as well, which is that agitation. But the restlessness is almost like you just can't find that comfortable seat. You can't find that comfortable place. And so part of it is recognizing that the mind and the body are connected, and often that's what it is. Anybody who has some degree of anxiety knows it's really hard to sit still. Their body, right, wants to move. It's an activated state of fight or flight. So it wants to move, it wants to get out, right? So a couple of things. One is, if you notice that you're just in that state before you come to come to sit, is to do a movement practice, right? So I think I talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again. You can just shake, right, and get some of that off. You can do a movement practice, or perhaps even looking at your meditation practice that day in a different way, like it's a walking meditation. Maybe it's just being with some gentle music and allowing your body to just slowly move or dance or whatever it might be. The idea is that you're allowing yourself to be with yourself in your inner world. So sometimes movement is a beautiful way to allow yourself to do that, and can certainly help when we're feeling that restlessness. Now, I also said boredom, right? So it's interesting to see that sometimes we'll go to that place too, like, oh, this is so boring, I can't sit, and the mind still wanders, So they're both strategies of the mind, right, to not be in this place of open awareness, of being still. And so part of it is naming it, as we notice it in our bodies, to name it, to accept it. So I often will, okay, it's going to be one of those moments, and that's okay, right? That's okay. I know it's not going to be one of those just heart opening meditations that just, are so blissfully beautiful. In this moment, it's going to be just being with and allowing my mind to hopefully settle a little bit through the practice by naming it, being with it, accepting it for what it is. And sometimes it might even be being really curious about what's going on. This sensation of restlessness, like removing about why you might be restless and trying to figure out the meaning behind it, like meaning making machines of our brain, but more just being curious about the sensation of restlessness. Where do I feel restless in my body? Is that where it begins, or is it somewhere else? And just again, taking that observer stance as we're trying to cultivate in starting to kind of go into the actual sensation of restlessness or boredom in particular. And of course, then moving meditations, also a very effective and beautiful practice in and of itself, and especially in those days, those moments, those points in our life where we might be just dealing with quite a bit of stressor, and that movement is more helpful to us than the sitting in stillness. Okay, so that's hindrance number one. Hindrance number two, agitation or irritation. Oh, so irritation can come up for a whole bunch of reasons, of course. So maybe there's often it's sensory. So, there's noise outside, this comes up for me as an example. Sometimes I'm down in my meditation area, and it's in the downstairs of our house. And so if my husband is home and he's walking, I can hear him walking and I'll get irritated. I can't be quiet, and then I have to recognize, of course, he's not doing anything. He's just walking, right? He's just moving in the house. And so it's like recognizing it again and moving into it so that we can be with the irritation. So whatever it is, often it comes again from the external environments. There's a noise, there's, I can't get comfortable. Perhaps there's an irritation sometimes in the body, like we have pain, or we're just like, we're annoyed that we're not having a good meditation experience. So let's go back to the first one. We're restless, we're trying to sit, and now we're building agitation in ourselves because we're, excuse the language, pissed off. We're not having a good moment. We can't move through the mind, which of course creates more thoughts in the mind, right? And so while, we often want to just ignore it, move through it, and it's like remembering that what we resist persists. So what we resist tends to grow and become a little louder and more obnoxious. So here we want to really start to work with our irritation, allow it to be there, investigate further, deeper, or watch. Is it just like once we see it and are with it, then it often just goes, right? So first one, restlessness. Second one, agitation. Third one, which comes up for people, I don't have as many experiences with this, but it's sleepiness. And so, I remember doing teacher training, 13 years ago. And, somebody had asked my teacher, what if people fall asleep during class or in Shavasana or in meditation? And her response was, and, I thought it was a good one, which is, I guess they needed some sleep. Like, let them be. Leave them be. The only challenge, and of course, in a public meditation space, is if people start to snore, which has happened, and then they're kind of creating irritation in other people, if you will, and disturbances. But if you need to sleep, if it happens once in a while and you fall asleep, okay, have a beautiful nap. Allow yourself, your body's probably saying you need to rest. If it happens frequently, there's two things you can do. One is to adjust your posture, because the more upright we are in the posture that we've talked about, the less likely you are to fall asleep. And with that, you may also just establish an intention, I'm going to stay awake. So there's certainly that. Again, I'm going to say, if you wish to stay awake, that can be a solution to it. Or you can go, okay, meditation is a wonderful way that helps me get to sleep. So I'm going to practice it in the evening before I go to bed, or in bed, as a way to help me go into a deeper sleep. So instead of trying to change it, which is okay to do, but instead of doing that, is just move with it. Now, that being said, if you wish to kind of be in a place of not falling asleep in a class or whatnot, it's kind of making sure your posture supports you and setting the intention to stay awake. So that's 3, which is sleepiness. 4, which comes up quite a bit, and it's for new people in particular, which is doubt. We'll just put it into doubt, which is the uncertainty that we can be with, that this is going to work for me, right? And so for lots of people at the beginning of their practice, if it doesn't, they have this expectation of what they think meditation is going to be. And then when that first or second experiences don't match up, meditation isn't for me. Is that, this can work for others, but it's not going to work for me. So we create doubt, which is healthy, right? But it's also an invitation, right? It's an invitation to really go, okay, am I creating a situation that actually is resisting that which might be helpful to me? Am I creating an expectation before? So beginner's mind, can I come to it with a sense of curiosity, or beginner's mind that can allow me to be in the experience just as it is without those expectations, which is a fundamental practice of meditation and mindfulness in particular. And remembering that thoughts are thoughts, right? They're not facts. We don't need to do anything simply because we have a thought. It is simply that. So when we notice doubt starting to slip in, take note of it. Perhaps even notice the fear that might be underneath it, and then return back gently to practice. And over time, we start to allow the experience that we're having to be the dominant part of what we're experiencing in the moment, as opposed to the thought about the experience, which may or may not support the practice itself. And number 5 is wanting and grasping. There's lots of words that often are used for this, but this is where often the mind wants to wander into a state of wanting to be somewhere else than where we are. It may be craving, like, oh, I'm hungry, I want to go eat. The mind can drift then into the story about, what am I going to have for lunch after this is done, or we can just be in this place, of wanting something other than what we are doing, which can then create restlessness or the irritation in particular. So, oh, I wish I was here. I don't know. I got this to do. It can be very productively oriented too, right? Like, it's subtle and can be kind of sneaky in the sense that it can be like, oh, I have this big project, I really should be working on that. Like, when am I going to make the deadline right now? Of course, we're irritated, perhaps, or even restless. And so it's really, again, about creating a space for your practice, finding something that works for you given the situation that you might find yourself in. So recognizing the benefit of the practice itself for helping to calm and to maybe even touch into your creative energies for what you need to do. but to be easy on yourself, if you will, and to really be in this state of allowing yourself this space, reminding the thoughts that we're going to be here for this amount of time. And then to really practice then returning back to the anchor in which we're working with. And if it really becomes strong, it's then maybe shifting your practice instead of whatever you might be doing that day to just becoming really aware of the story and pull, of noticing the sensation of the pull itself, which can be really helpful when we are examining the cravings that we all have to whatever it is, and resisting those cravings allow us to make more mindful choices for ourselves in a wide variety of ways. So those are the 5 hindrances. Is there any questions for those who are here on those? If you have questions and are watching later, please feel free to post them to email and I will get back to you on those. So on Sundays today, we're going to be practicing, as we will for the next few weeks, this idea of natural presence, or just being in open awareness, loving awareness, and that practice. On Tuesday, we're using focus meditations, if you will, or something that we can focus on through mantra, through chanting, through other practices. And then on Thursday, we're doing more body scanning or somatic experiences so that we can feel okay, comfortable in our own bodies and noticing those sensations, all of which are different ways of experiencing those 5 hindrances. And so keeping that in mind, maybe even making some notes in your journal of what you may be experiencing, because we often have patterns of behavior around that, of course. And these patterns often show up not only in meditation, but in other areas of our life for sure. So today we're going to begin a practice. We will be here for probably 15 to 20 minutes. And it will be an open awareness for thoughts and sensations. So I invite you now, whatever is comfortable for you, making any adjustments in your body so that you can sit for that long. Taking a seat. Your spine in this space and time right now is strong. It's supporting. You can feel the seat bones in the cushion or whatever you might be seated on, and from that point upward, your spine is tall. You're tall and you're relaxed. As we breathe, we can feel that there's space for us to move our lungs in all directions, forward, back, side. We can close our eyes or lower our gaze, whichever is calling to you today. And just allow yourself a moment or two to settle into your position. So today we are going to practice open awareness. Open awareness practices can give us the gift of being aware of our thoughts, emotions, what's happening in our relationships, whatever might be coming up for you today. But we don't want to get stuck or hung up on them as we may usually do. the open awareness practices allow us to have a gentle matter of factness to ourselves. Oh, this is here. Got it. So we'll begin by taking a full breath in and a long breath out. A full breath in, allowing your lungs to expand, and a long breath out, long, slow, deep. Notice your inhale. Notice your exhale. Allowing the breath to settle into its natural rhythm. Allowing the breath to breathe itself. Trying not to interfere with the process, but notice how the body moves in response to your breath. The chest expands with the inhale, and it relaxes with the exhale. The belly rises and falls. Gently expand your awareness to whatever is arising. You may notice thoughts, sensations, sounds. Allow them to come and to go, rising and falling. Allow everything to arise and to pass away. Try letting go of any idea about what you think this moment ought to be, and just rest with an awareness of how things actually are for you in this moment. This moment. This moment. What is the quality of the sensations in your body in this moment around this experience? Can you be aware of any changes in your body or your mind? And in this noticing, can you gently let go without judgment? Doing this as often as necessary with a kind and gentle awareness, with loving awareness. Now, if it feels safe for you to do so, include any pain or discomfort in your body within your awareness. Often we resist feelings of pain or discomfort. Can you be with it? Using the breath to help soften. Inviting in any pleasurable dimensions into your awareness now. It might be subtle, it might be the softness of this clothes on your skin, the felt sensation of your breath, the cool air around you, warmth. With each breath, return to a simple, clear awareness of what's here right now, this moment. In our final few moments of practice, bringing your focus to your breath again and allowing the awareness of all the other things to fade into the background. Being with the sensations of your body as you breathe. returning our attention to our breath, to the subtle movement of our body. Taking a few conscious breaths, being with our inhale, full deep into our belly, and our exhale as we slowly exhale. Starting to take in the sensation of our body on our seat, taking in the space around us, even with eyes closed, becoming aware of the room that we were in, the external world around us, being in both the internal world and also being aware of the world around us. As we share our awareness, balancing our awareness between these two worlds. May we walk through the day with loving awareness.